Emma and Nick. They seemed like the perfect couple. They were enjoying their honeymoon at a luxurious seaside resort. The sun reflected in the crystal-clear water, and the warm breeze gently kissed their faces as they walked hand in hand along the shore. Emma glowed with happiness. She felt like she was living her dream, the one she had cherished since childhood, to marry the man she loved and build a life full of love and adventure. Nick. He smiled too, held her hand, but there was a shadow in his eyes. Something was troubling him, and Emma couldn't quite figure out what. His kisses were sweet, but not like before. His hugs had lost their warmth. Blinded by love, she brushed it off as post-wedding stress and fatigue, refusing to see the warning signs. That evening, they chose to dine at an elegant restaurant on the hotel grounds. Candlelight lit the table, the soft murmur of waves mixed with the notes of live music. Emma gazed at her husband with admiration, thinking how lucky she was. But Nick kept checking his phone. He looked at it with a nervous urgency Emma had never seen in him before. Every time it buzzed, emotions flashed in his eyes, emotions he hadn't shown toward her in a long time. "Is everything all right, darling?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Yes, sweetheart. Just work," Nick replied with a strained smile that never reached his eyes. He quickly changed the subject, dodging any talk that could bring the truth to light. The dinner went on, but the atmosphere had shifted. Emma tried to enjoy the meal, the sea, the music, but the unease in her heart only grew stronger. Later that night, when they returned to their room, Nick's phone rang again. "It's work. I have to take this," he said, stepping out onto the balcony and shutting the door behind him. Emma was left alone. Her heart pounded. Something deep inside told her this wasn't just about work. She crept closer to the door to listen. His voice was tense, nervous. She couldn't make out the words, but his tone said enough. The call dragged on. Feeling a lump in her throat, she grabbed a sweater and stepped outside, hoping the fresh air would clear her mind. Just then, she saw Nick finishing the call and heading back inside. "You're going out?" he asked, surprised. "Yes, just a little walk. Want to come?" she asked, hoping he'd want to be near her. Nick looked at his phone again and shook his head. "Better later. I need to finish something," he said, trying to sound calm. But something in his voice betrayed him. Emma nodded, forced a smile, and left. As she walked toward the hotel lobby, her thoughts spiraled. Who had called him? Why all the secrecy? Why did this dream resort suddenly feel like a trap? She reached the beach, the one place that always brought her peace. The moon shimmered on the waves, the ocean breathed softly, but it brought no comfort. Emma sat in the sand, closed her eyes, and tried to find even a drop of calm. But then, a voice. She flinched. Nick's voice. He was talking to someone nearby. Carefully, with her heart racing, Emma followed the sound. Hiding behind some bushes, she froze. "I know, Chloe. I know. I'm with you. I'm not going back to her," he said. The ground seemed to collapse beneath Emma's feet. Chloe, her best friend, the woman she had trusted with everything, that same Chloe, the one who stood by her through the darkest times. Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her heart clenched with pain, and her mind refused to accept it. "But what should we do? Emma doesn't deserve this," Chloe mumbled, though her voice carried no trace of regret. "We've already talked about this. What matters is what we feel," Nick replied coldly. "Emma's strong. She'll survive." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, but she forced herself not to cry. No, she wouldn't be the woman who falls to her knees before betrayal. She slowly backed away, leaving them alone, in their world of lies, deceit, and shattered vows. Emma returned to the hotel. Her thoughts were in chaos. Everything she had believed in, everything she had poured her heart into, had turned to dust. But she knew. Breaking down now would mean losing. She had to stay clear-headed and plan her next move. When Nick returned to the room, Emma was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. He walked over, kissed her forehead absent-mindedly, and whispered, "I love you, baby." But the words echoed like an empty shell in a hollow room. They no longer meant anything. Emma woke up early the next morning. Nick was still asleep. She had spent the night thinking everything through. She had a plan. Silently, without making a sound, she packed her things, left a short note on the nightstand, and walked away without looking back. "I know everything. Don't worry, there won't be any drama. Just don't look for me." The road home was long, but Emma used that time wisely. No tears, no breakdowns. She had made a decision. She would never be weak again. From now on, she would be cold and calculated. If they dragged her into a game, she would play by her own rules. When she got home, the phone rang. The name on the screen pierced her like a needle. Irene, her mother-in-law. Emma hesitated for a second, then picked up. "Emma, I hope you're home. We need to talk." Irene's familiar, condescending voice rang out. "I'm listening, Irene. What do you want?" "You need to understand something, dear. What happened between Nicholas and that woman? It's your fault. You failed to keep my son. You couldn't satisfy him." Her voice dripped with poison and smug cruelty. Anger boiled in Emma's chest, but she didn't let it surface. "That's your opinion, Irene. Keep it to yourself, and live with it. Because your precious son is no longer my problem. Now you can deal with the consequences." Her voice was calm, firm, and full of quiet power. Irene was speechless. For the first time, she had nothing to say. Before she could utter a word, Emma ended the call. Later that day, Emma realized she needed someone she could trust, someone who wasn't part of this web of lies, someone with strength and integrity, someone like Matthew. He was a lawyer with a spotless reputation, and he had helped Emma once before. She went to see him, knowing he would be her ally in the battle ahead. When Emma entered the office, Matthew greeted her with a warm smile. But when he saw the sadness in her eyes, his face grew serious. "Emma, what happened?" he asked gently, concern in his voice. She sat down across from him. For the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe again. Taking a deep breath, she said, "Matthew, I need your help. But more than anything, I need justice." And in that moment, for the first time since the nightmare began, Emma felt like she was back in control of her life. Matthew listened silently. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He was just there, as Emma told him everything, from Nick's betrayal to Irene's venomous call. When Emma finished her story, Matthew stood up, walked over to her, and gently took her hands in his. "Don't worry, Emma. We're going to make them pay," he promised, looking her straight in the eyes. "And we'll do it in a way they'll never forget." Emma nodded silently. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but now she wasn't alone. With Matthew by her side, she had support, strength, and if this was a game, she had no intention of losing. The next morning, Emma didn't wake up with tears or panic. No hysteria, no heartache, only cold, focused resolve, the kind that remains after betrayal. What happened during her honeymoon hadn't just broken her heart. It had lit a fire inside her, one that couldn't be extinguished. Matthew turned out to be a gift from fate. He wasn't just her support, he became her weapon. He dug deep, researching Nick, Irene, and Chloe's past. What he found was shocking. Chloe wasn't just the mistress, he said one day, laying documents out on the table. She was involved in serious financial fraud. "Here, take a look." He handed her printed reports, transaction histories, transfers, signatures, everything. Nick and Chloe were funneling money out of the family business. And Irene knew the whole time. She covered for them, to protect the family's reputation. Emma clenched her jaw. So, this was all a setup? Irene planned everything? Even me? Yes, Matthew confirmed. She wanted Nick to be with Chloe, so she could control both her son and the business. You were just part of the illusion. The realization hit Emma like a wave of ice. The woman who once called her sweetheart, who brought her pastries and played the caring mother-in-law, was nothing more than a cold-blooded manipulator. I won't let her get away with this, Emma said, fists trembling. We're going to expose the truth, every disgusting detail. Soon, the time came to confront Chloe. Emma walked slowly toward Nick's parents' house, knowing Chloe would be waiting there. The plan was clear. Present the evidence, get a confession, and use it against both Chloe and Irene. As she approached the gate, Chloe came out to meet her, wearing a fake smile. Emma? I didn't expect to see you. What's going on? She asked, her voice sticky sweet. Emma didn't smile back. We need to talk, Chloe. No more pretending. Of course. Come in. No. Right here is fine. This won't take long. Emma cut her off. She reached into her bag, pulled out the documents, and handed them to Chloe. Do you know what this is? Chloe took the papers with an air of calm, but Emma saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. I don't know what you mean. Of course you do. This is proof. Every transaction, every theft, every transfer into your accounts. You, Nick, and Irene, you played your roles well. But tell me, Chloe, how long did you really think you could keep this hidden? Emma's voice shook with fury. She was on the edge. Chloe inhaled deeply, trying to hold on to her mask of composure. You don't understand what you're looking at. This isn't the full story. You're letting your pain cloud your judgment. No, Chloe. This isn't pain. This is clarity. This is the realization that everything I believed in was a lie, that the people closest to me were snakes, hissing behind my back while hugging me from the front. Emma took a step closer, locking eyes with her. And you know what? I'm no longer the naive girl you could break. I'm the one who will burn down everything you built on betrayal. And you, Chloe, you'll be the first to fall. Her voice was ice, and for the first time, Chloe stepped back, losing the confidence she had always worn like armor. Chloe finally dropped the mask. And what are you going to do? She asked with a venomous smile. Post it online? Go public? If you dare, you'll destroy not only Nick, but yourself. No one will believe you. They'll say it's just another tantrum from a bitter wife. Emma looked her straight in the eyes, calm and steady. You think I'm afraid? The truth always comes out, and when it does, there'll be nowhere left to run. Not for you, not for Irene. A heavy silence fell between them, like the air before a storm. The tension was thick, electric. In this battle of words, both women were bracing for the next final blow. Chloe could no longer pretend. With a sneer, she hissed, You were always the golden girl, the favorite, the smart one. Everything just landed in your lap. But you know what? Nick never loved you. He was mine long before your wedding. It's always been me, and it always will be. The words stabbed through Emma like a blade. Her chest burned with pain, but she didn't flinch. She didn't cry. Maybe you do have Nick, she said coldly. But to him, you're nothing more than a tool. You're a pawn in Irene's game, and when she's done with you, she'll toss you aside, just like she's done with others. And in that moment, Nick walked in. What's going on here? He asked, staring at the two women, stunned. Chloe instantly turned toward him, her voice sweet and innocent. "Your wife is accusing me of all kinds of nonsense. I don't know where she's getting any of it." Emma looked at her husband. Her voice was steady, steel beneath the calm. "Nick, I know everything. About you, about Chloe, about Irene, and I'm done staying silent." He took a step toward her, as if to explain something, but Emma raised her hand. "Don't come closer. I've had enough of your lies." Chloe flared up. "You're going to let her talk to you like that? Let her ruin everything?" But Nick said nothing. For the first time, he had no words. Something in Emma's eyes, a cold determination, the clarity of truth, froze him where he stood. He tried to say something, to offer excuses, anything. "Emma, please, let me explain. It's not what you think." She cut him off. "Oh? Then go ahead. Explain. What exactly is not what I think? The affair with my best friend? The theft from the family business? The years of hypocrisy and lies? Tell me, Nick, how do you justify that?" He went silent again, but she didn't. She looked at both of them, at Chloe, pale and trembling, and at Nick, her husband, who now looked like a hollow, broken man. "This isn't over, not for either of you," Emma said. "Get ready. You're going to answer for everything." That evening, at home, Emma and Matthew were once again reviewing the documents they had gathered. She was quiet, but her eyes had a new fire in them, an idea. "What if we go further?" she said suddenly. Matthew looked up from the papers. "Further how?" "Irene has always worked from the shadows, pulling strings behind the scenes, hiding behind her power. But what if we dragged her into the light? What if we made all of this public?" He paused. "You want to go public with it all? It's risky, but maybe that's the only way to take her empire down." Emma nodded. "She played us like pawns. It's time to flip the board." That same night, Emma recorded a video. She sat in front of the camera, composed, strong. Her voice didn't shake. Her eyes didn't lower. Every word she spoke was a nail in the coffin of their lies. She told the truth, about the betrayal, about her best friend who turned out to be a mistress, about the manipulation, the financial crimes, about Irene's control over everything. She didn't just speak. She showed proof. And then she uploaded the video to every social media platform. The internet exploded. The video spread like wildfire, through messengers, news feeds, headlines. Reporters picked it up, live streams, commentaries. The perfect family image Irene had crafted for years collapsed in a single day. Irene panicked. She called lawyers, threatened journalists, tried to stop the damage. But it was too late. And this was only the beginning. The scandal had erupted, and there was no stopping it now. Each day the tension grew like a wave swelling before a storm. But instead of fear, Emma felt a strange, unwavering calm. She knew the point of no return had been crossed. There was no going back, and she had nothing left to fear, because the truth was on her side. She sat in front of the TV, watching her plan unfold like a carefully crafted movie. Headline after headline flashed across the screen. Fraud, corruption, secrets, betrayal. Everything Nick's family had been hiding for years was finally coming to light. Matthew, sitting beside her, turned and asked, "Are you ready for the final battle?" Without taking her eyes off the screen, Emma nodded. "I'm ready, Matthew. This is just the beginning." The scandal hit like a bomb, tearing down everything that once seemed unshakable. The reputation Irene had spent decades building was crumbling before the world's eyes. Her name, once met with respect, now reeked of lies, schemes, and abuse of power. Emma watched it all unfold with bitter satisfaction. The iron-fisted empire Irene ruled was now imploding, and the weapon she had forged against others was now being turned on her. Panic-stricken, Irene called an emergency meeting with the company's board. Gone was the composed, confident woman. In her place stood someone brittle, angry, and afraid. When Nick and Chloe arrived, they saw a version of Irene they'd never seen before, exhausted, shaken, on the verge of collapse. "I thought we could deal with Emma," she hissed through clenched teeth, "but she's become ruthless. If we don't act now, it'll be too late." Chloe stood silently, her confidence shattered after her public humiliation. She couldn't even meet Irene's eyes. Maybe we've gone too far," she whispered. "People are watching. We can't stop the tide anymore." Irene spun toward her, eyes blazing. "You think we surrender? Never. Not after everything I've done to keep this family on top." Nick, who had stayed quiet the entire time, finally spoke. "Mom, maybe Chloe's right. Emma has every piece of evidence. There's no way out of this. We need to minimize the damage, not fight a war we've already lost." His words struck Irene like betrayal. "I can't believe what I'm hearing," she whispered, pale. "You, my son, willing to give up? Everything I did was for you, for your future, and now you're letting that bitter woman destroy it all?" Nick lowered his eyes. For the first time in his life, he knew what it meant to think for himself, to stop hiding behind his mother, to stop pretending, to stop lying. "This isn't just about Emma," he said quietly. "It's about everything we did, everything you made us do. We can't pretend anymore." Meanwhile, Emma and Matthew were preparing for their final move. "Everything's ready for the preliminary hearing," Matthew said, flipping through the documents. "The evidence is airtight. Irene won't be able to hide anything." "I won't stop until she answers for everything," Emma said firmly. "Not just for what she did to me, but for what she's done to others. This isn't just revenge. This is justice." Matthew looked at her with quiet admiration. "You've changed, Emma. You're stronger than ever. From a woman betrayed and broken, into a warrior unafraid to go all the way." In the following days, chaos reigned. Irene tried everything to discredit Emma. She spread lies, hired expensive lawyers, bought headlines, but the truth had already broken free. Every new attempt failed. Every statement was countered. Every move meaningless. The day of the hearing came. The courtroom was silent, thick with anticipation, like the air before lightning strikes. All eyes turned to Irene as she entered, her head held high, a forced smile on her face. Her gaze was icy, her movements calculated. She tried to maintain the image of a queen still in control. But inside, she was trembling. When Emma's lawyers began presenting the evidence, Irene's hands clenched tightly into fists. Emma sat with quiet confidence, as if she were in her own home. One by one, the documents were laid bare. Emails, bank transfers, secret recordings, everything that had once been hidden, now laid out before the court. Murmurs spread across the room. Reporters leaned forward in their seats. The judge exchanged glances with his peers. And Irene, for the first time, lowered her eyes. As the trial unfolded, one thing became undeniably clear. Irene was cornered. The judge, after hearing all the testimonies and carefully reviewing the evidence, gave his verdict. Irene and Nick were to be held accountable for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. Chloe, who had desperately cut a deal with the prosecution and cooperated with the authorities, received a prison sentence, reduced, but still crushing. She stood with her eyes cast down, like a shadow of her former self. But Irene, she showed no remorse, only pride, clenched tightly in her jaw, and burning hatred in every glance she threw at Emma. But the most shocking moment was still to come. Matthew, who had remained in the background the entire time, stood up in the final minutes of the hearing. He handed the judge a document, one no one knew existed. It turned out that years ago, Irene had signed a secret prenuptial agreement stating that, in the event of a divorce, Emma would become the legal owner of a significant portion of the family's estate. Irene had hidden it well. Even Nick didn't know. Neither did Chloe. The judge didn't hesitate. "This agreement is valid and enforceable. Everything is legally binding." Irene's face froze. Rage, disbelief, humiliation. In a single moment, she lost everything she had spent her life trying to protect. And Emma remained calm, because what she had gained wasn't just material wealth. It was herself, her dignity, her peace. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Flashes burst, microphones stretched forward. "Emma, how do you feel? Is this a victory? What do you want to say to the public?" She paused for just a second, looked into the cameras, and said quietly, "This isn't just a victory for me. It's a victory for truth and justice. For everyone who has ever suffered at the hands of those who believe they're above the law." In the following days, Emma's life changed dramatically. Now, with a fortune legally in her name, she didn't choose revenge. She founded an organization to support women who had suffered from domestic abuse, emotional manipulation, and betrayal. And by her side, always, was Matthew. Steady, loyal. Not just the man who saved her, but the man who became part of her new life. And Irene? Locked away in a cold prison cell, cut off from her empire, she could only watch the woman she once saw as weak and insignificant become a powerful figure, a voice for those no one used to listen to. In one last desperate attempt to reclaim a shred of control, Irene requested a meeting with Emma. When Emma entered the prison visitation room, silence fell heavy and sharp. Irene sat on the bench, older, thinner, but still dangerous in her silence. "Are you just going to stand there and look at me with pity?" she rasped. "Do you really think you've won, Emma? Do you think you can replace me in the world I built?" Emma sat down across from her. There was no pity in her eyes, only clarity and calm. "I'm not here to replace you, Irene," she said. "I came to tell you something. You didn't destroy me. You tried to erase everything good that ever existed in this family, but you failed. Nick is free now. Chloe will answer for her own choices. And I found peace." Irene scoffed. "Peace? After all of this?" "Yes, Irene," Emma said softly. "Because unlike you, I'm not obsessed with control. I don't need to break others to feel whole. I've learned that real strength doesn't come from power. It comes from forgiveness." Emma stood. "I forgive you, Irene. Not because you deserve it, but because I need it. To live, to move on." Irene didn't reply. For the first time, she had nothing to say. Emma turned, walked to the door, then paused and looked back one last time. "Your time is over, Irene. Mine is just beginning." What do you think of this story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Your support helps us continue creating powerful, emotional stories that inspire. See you in the next episode.